The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, sending shards skating across the polished surface like glittering tears. Naledi Okafor watched it spin and fragment, her entire body trembling so violently she had to grip the kitchen counter to stay upright. Blood, thank God not hers, music, splattered across the designer jacket she'd borrowed from the walk-in closet. And standing in the penthouse doorway overlooking Bangkok, looking absolutely decimated like he'd fought demons himself, was her husband, Jin-ho, the tech entrepreneur everyone in Seoul whispered was secretly aromantic, the man who hadn't so much as held her hand in 5 months of marriage, the man whose eyes were now burning with such raw, primal possession that Naledi forgot how to exist. "Did he hurt you?" His voice was lethal quiet, the kind of dangerous calm that preceded catastrophe. He spoke rapid Thai, then switched to English when she couldn't respond. "Naledi, answer me. Did he lay a single finger on you?" She couldn't speak, couldn't do anything except stare at the unconscious man sprawled across their living room floor. The stalker who'd been obsessed with her since the wedding announcement, who'd bypassed security, who'd grabbed her in the kitchen and pressed that knife to her windpipe while whispering threats she'd prayed not to understand. The man Jin-ho had hurled through their glass partition with nothing but bare hands and absolute fury. "I'm okay," she finally whispered in Yoruba, her grandmother's language pouring out automatically in her panic. Jin-ho crossed the room in 2 strides, his bleeding knuckles rising to cup her face with shocking gentleness, but his entire body was vibrating with violence barely contained. "Tell me he didn't touch you." His jaw locked so tight she actually heard his teeth grinding. "If he put anything on you, if he even tried, I'll destroy him. I don't care about legal consequences. I will actually destroy him." And the absolutely terrifying thing was that Naledi believed every single word. This icy, detached man who'd maintained distance for 5 months straight, who'd married her purely for image rehabilitation, who everyone swore was incapable of romantic feeling, looked prepared to commit murder for her. His hands were trembling against her cheekbones, and she could feel every shake. "How did you know?" she breathed. "You were supposed to be in Singapore presenting to investors until tomorrow." "I felt it," he whispered. His forehead descended to touch hers, and the vulnerability broke her completely. "I was sitting in a conference room surrounded by executives, and suddenly I couldn't breathe, like my entire chest was collapsing inward. I felt this overwhelming panic screaming that you were in danger, that you needed me, so I chartered a helicopter immediately and flew here." His eyes opened, and the intensity nearly knocked her off her feet. "Don't ask me to make sense of this because I can't. I just knew my wife needed me. My wife, not this marriage arrangement, not this business transaction. My wife like you belonged to him entirely, like he'd wage war against the universe itself to protect her." Sirens wailed outside, getting closer with each second. Someone had contacted the authorities. But Naledi couldn't concentrate on that because Jin-ho was pulling her tightly against his chest, wrapping himself around her like his body alone could shield her from every danger in existence. And for the first time since arriving in Bangkok, since getting pulled into this arranged marriage, since becoming the pitied wife of a man everyone whispered about, Naledi felt something she'd stopped believing in entirely. She felt genuinely safe. But this story doesn't start with violence and helicopter rescues and confessions spoken in desperation. This story begins 6 months earlier in her father's home office in Lagos, Nigeria, where one man's terrible financial choices were about to obliterate his daughter's entire world. If you want to know how a Nigerian woman and a Korean billionaire tech founder went from business arrangement to a love so consuming it shattered every rumor, every prediction, every boundary society placed between them, keep watching because what happens next will destroy your heart and rebuild it completely. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and ring that notification bell because your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's go back to where this impossible journey actually began. Being the eldest daughter in a Yoruba family meant carrying debts you never accumulated, duties you never volunteered for, a burden so heavy it could crush you without warning. Naledi had understood this since childhood, watching her mother's smile disappear, watching her father make increasingly reckless decisions chasing money that never came, understanding that her education and future existed only as tools in desperate games. But she never imagined destruction would arrive like this. "His name is Jin-ho Park," her father said, not lifting his eyes from the business card trembling in his hands. South Korean, 35 years old, founder and CEO of Neotech Industries, worth approximately $900 million and growing daily. Naledi froze in the doorway of their sitting room, her mind absolutely refusing to process what she was hearing. "Papa, what exactly are you telling me?" "I'm telling you he's willing to marry you," her father finally answered, and the total devastation reflected in his eyes was worse than anything else. "In exchange, his company assumes my entire debt load and provides capital to resurrect my business from complete failure. You'll have security, Naledi. Wealth beyond imagination. He's intelligent, accomplished, globally respected. You're auctioning me." The words escaped completely emotionless because if she felt even a fraction of the panic rising inside her, she would literally shatter into pieces. "Don't be ridiculous," her mother snapped from the corner where she'd been pretending to do needlework. "This is an extraordinary opportunity. Do you understand how many women would sacrifice everything for this chance? Then let them marry him." Naledi's voice climbed despite her trying to control it. "I don't want a marriage to a complete stranger, Mama. I absolutely refuse to leave Nigeria. I refuse. Your preferences simply don't matter here," her father stated with finality, standing now with steel replacing his usual gentleness. "Do you think I desire this? Do you imagine I want to arrange my daughter's life to a foreigner like some kind of transaction? But I have exhausted absolutely every option." Naledi, the international investors disappeared. "The banks provided me 30 days before they seize our properties completely. Everything goes. Your brother's university costs, your mother's medical treatments, this house. All of it evaporates unless I secure significant capital. And Jin-ho offered it specifically for you. There must be other solutions. There genuinely aren't any." Her father's fist slammed the table, rattling her mother's tea. "This represents our only path forward. This saves our family from total obliteration." Naledi felt hot tears forming, but she refused to release them. And what exactly does this Jin-ho Park get from this arrangement? Why would someone wealthy pursue a purchase bride from Nigeria? The silence that followed was the kind that meant her parents understood something they were desperately hiding. "Mama," Naledi demanded. "What's he hiding? Why does he specifically want to marry me?" Her mother's lips compressed into a line. "There's significant speculation about him in Korean business circles, about his personal inclinations and romantic preferences. He requires a wife to counteract certain rumors and assumptions about his lifestyle. You need financial protection and security. Everyone gains from this exchange. He's asexual or doesn't date women, isn't he? You're arranging my marriage to someone who may not even experience attraction to women so he can preserve some image. We don't possess confirmed information," her father said quickly. "And even if that's genuinely accurate, would it significantly alter anything? You'd exist in complete luxury, Naledi. He's guaranteed you absolute independence, your personal residence, complete autonomy. You'll experience everything except romantic passion, except my actual choice, except the future I was constructing for myself." Naledi's voice fractured. "I was finishing my graduate degree in business administration. I was going to," she stopped, unwilling to mention Tund, her boyfriend, the life they'd been building before her father's catastrophic failures destroyed everything. Her mother understood regardless. That boy possesses no prospects whatsoever. He's charming, certainly, but charm doesn't pay financial obligations. You'll move past him completely once you're in Korea. Never. The word carried more strength than Naledi actually felt. "I'm refusing. I will not marry him." Her father's face hardened into something she didn't recognize. "You will," he said quietly. "The contract is already executed completely. He's transferred the initial payment already. Your flight departs for Bangkok in 4 weeks exactly." The room tilted sideways. "You already signed. Without even asking me first? I performed what was necessary to preserve this household," Chief Okafor responded grimly. "And you will accomplish the same." Bangkok arrived like a sandstorm, overwhelming and disorienting, nothing like she'd imagined. The airport was architectural marvel, glass everywhere, Thai characters she couldn't decipher covering every surface. And perpetually, constantly, people stared at her dark skin like she was extraterrestrial. Her brother Chisholm, who'd accompanied her as family representative, pulled his jacket tighter around himself. "Jesus, Naledi, this place is like walking inside an oven, but also freezing somehow." "I can't do this," Naledi whispered, her panic rising dangerously. "Chisholm, I genuinely can't accomplish this." You absolutely can, he replied, grabbing her shoulders forcefully until she faced him directly. You're the most resilient person I've ever encountered in my entire life. And this Jin-ho Park, if he's intelligent at all, he'll recognize that immediately. If he's not intelligent, if he doesn't understand your actual value, you call me. The money doesn't matter. Papa's debts are irrelevant. You call me, and I'm getting you out personally. Naledi nodded, her voice completely trapped inside her throat. They navigated customs and emerged into arrivals where a woman in immaculate designer clothing held a sign reading Ms. Okafor in elegant script. Ms. Okafor, the woman greeted her professionally. I'm Young-soo, Mr. Park's executive assistant. He requested me to express his sincere regrets regarding his absence. Unexpected developments required his immediate involvement in the office. Naturally, meeting his purchased bride ranked below urgent business concerns. The drive through Bangkok felt like traveling into the future. The skyline was architectural perfection. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds. Everything gleamed with impossible wealth. They pulled into a complex so enormous it resembled its own city. Mr. Park's residence, Young-soo announced. The penthouse occupies the complete top 4 floors. Your belongings are being transported upstairs presently. The penthouse took Naledi's breath away while simultaneously making her want to flee immediately. Soaring ceilings, panoramic windows showing the entire sprawling city, every surface screamed luxury and emptiness simultaneously. Furniture looked like museum exhibits. Every color was chrome or ivory or glass. Nothing felt genuinely inhabited. It resembled a luxury showroom rather than a residence where actual people existed. Mr. Park will meet you for dinner this evening at 8:30 p.m. The restaurant is called Silk Moon. Car service will collect you at 8. Formal attire is absolutely required. Then Young-soo departed, leaving Naledi abandoned in a penthouse that felt more like an elegant prison than a home. Chisholm said quietly, we could still leave this second. We could find alternative solutions together. But they couldn't possibly. The money was already transferred permanently, her father's debts completely eliminated, the contract executed in legal language and desperation. I'll manage somehow, Naledi lied unconvincingly. Return to Lagos. Tell Mama I'm managing fine. After Chisholm left for his hotel, Naledi wandered the penthouse like a disconnected spirit. She discovered the guest bedroom prepared with meticulous precision for her arrival. King-size bed, ensuite bathroom exceeding her childhood bedroom's total size, wardrobe already stocked with garments in her exact measurements. Someone had investigated her thoroughly, studied her completely, orchestrated her arrival with mathematical precision and cold calculation. But where was he? Where was this man she'd been sold to? Naledi had been sitting in isolation for 58 minutes now. The other patrons, wealthy Korean businesspeople dressed in designer labels, had been casting her pitying glances for the past 35 minutes straight. Restaurant staff circled with increasing discomfort, clearly uncertain how to handle the black woman abandoned at a table. Humiliation burned like fire through her entire body. This would establish everything. This would define her existence here. Rejected by a man she'd been sold to, humiliated publicly before complete strangers. She prepared to stand and leave, prepared to contact Chisholm and beg him to retrieve her right now. Then the entire restaurant energy shifted, and Naledi looked up and saw him. Jin-ho Park entered like he owned the space, which probably he did. Tall, absolutely devastating in tailored charcoal. His presence radiating magnetism and contained danger. His features were sharp aristocracy, beautiful in an unsettling manner. Prominent cheekbones, strong jawline, lips that seemed incapable of smiling, and his eyes, dark as midnight, absorbed everything while missing nothing, swept across the room before settling on her with shocking intensity. Naledi's breath caught completely. The photographs had been woefully inadequate. They'd either exaggerated or failed to capture the raw magnetism radiating from him. He approached without any hurrying, and when he reached her table, he offered no apology whatsoever. Miss Okafor, his English was flawless, barely accented. You're wearing emerald. I specifically instructed that you wear sapphire. Naledi blinked, completely thrown by his criticism. I sent extremely detailed guidelines about appropriate attire for tonight. Sapphire dress specifically, hair pinned up, minimal jewelry only. You're wearing emerald with your hair completely down. He gestured toward her chair. Will you permit me to sit, or do you prefer broadcasting our personal matters throughout this entire restaurant? Fury replaced her shock completely. Naledi rose abruptly. You were over 58 minutes late meeting the woman you purchased, and your opening statement criticizes my clothing selection. I'm departing immediately. She continued, retrieving her designer purse. Tell Yongsu to arrange my flight back to Lagos tonight. Tell my father this arrangement is completely terminated. I'd rather experience genuine poverty than endure marriage with someone who treats me like a business problem he's too important to greet on time. She progressed 3 steps before his fingers enclosed her wrist gently. Wait, she said. Let me go, please. That single word seemed to cost him something physical and emotional. You're absolutely right. I was incredibly disrespectful, inexcusably disrespectful. Please sit with me. Let me start completely over. Naledi should have continued walking, should have trusted her instinct, yet something fractured in his expression, something raw and honest, made her hesitate. She rotated slowly. Jin-ho released her wrist immediately, raising both palms in surrender. Up close, exhaustion shadowed his features, tension clenched his jaw muscles. He resembled someone maintaining control through fingernails alone. Give me 5 minutes, Naledi said coldly. Explain why I shouldn't board the next flight returning to Nigeria right now. He pulled out her chair, waited for her to sit, then occupied his own seat. He studied her silently for an extended moment. I was running behind, he eventually began, because my executive board demanded my attention. They've been expressing significant concerns regarding my decision to marry someone they consider unsuitable and inappropriate. I spent the previous hour defending my choice to marry you instead of the numerous Korean socialites they've been throwing at me for literally years. Unsuitable, Naledi repeated flatly. Because I'm Nigerian. Because you represent something unexpected to them. Because this marriage complicates their carefully constructed expectations regarding my identity and future trajectory. He paused. I criticized your dress because I'm genuinely terrible at casual small talk and defaulted to criticism because that's the only language I'm fluent in anymore. It was inappropriate, and I sincerely apologize. You're not good at apologies. I'm genuinely deficient at fundamental human connection, which comprises a significant portion of why I need this marriage to even function professionally. His expression remained unreadable, but his hands flexed briefly on the table. The rumors about me, regarding my sexuality and romantic preferences, they're destroying my professional relationships completely. International associates feel uncertain about partnering with me. Board members question my judgment consistently. And I'm exhausted from defending myself to people who'd reject the truth regardless. What is the actual truth then? Does it genuinely matter? He settled back, observing her intently. You're here because your family desperately needed capital. I'm here because I need credibility and respectability. We're both conscious that this arrangement is purely contractual and transactional. Pretending otherwise would be completely meaningless. The phrase should have wounded her, should have confirmed her deepest fears about this transaction. Instead, she felt something unexpected. Recognition. Here was someone equally imprisoned, simply by different circumstances. She met his gaze directly, and something shifted between them. You're right, she said softly. This is purely contractual, so I'll establish my expectations completely clearly. I'll perform the role of devoted spouse in public places. I'll smile for media photographers. I'll master Thai and Korean etiquette and wear appropriate garments and implement whatever you require to stop the rumors permanently. However, in private, I demand complete respect. You show up when you commit to showing up. You regard me as an individual human being, not a purchased problem you paid to solve. Can you fulfill these actual requirements? Something transformed in Jin-ho's expression. Recognition, perhaps, or unexpected respect. I can absolutely accomplish that without question. Then we possess an accord, Mr. Park. Jin-ho, he corrected quietly. If we're entering into marriage, use my given name. Jin-ho, Naledi repeated, savoring how the syllables felt in her mouth. You researched me extensively before this. I investigate everything comprehensively. He gestured to a waiter who appeared instantly. After ordering in rapid Korean, Jin-ho redirected his focus toward her completely. I'm aware you completed your undergraduate degree with honors in business administration from the University of Lagos. I'm aware you communicate in Yoruba, English, and conversational French. I'm aware your favorite meal is jollof rice, and while locating authentic preparations here is challenging, I've identified a West African restaurant in Thongler with acceptable versions. I'm aware you intended to pursue business development through the African Union before your father's financial devastation destroyed those prospects. Naledi didn't know whether to experience gratification or violation at his thorough knowledge. You understand considerable information regarding me, but you're mistaken about something specific. What's that? My dreams haven't been destroyed or obliterated, merely interrupted temporarily. I'm reconstructing my future regardless. She maintained his gaze directly. I'll become your wife, Jin-ho, but I won't become someone artificial or fake. And eventually, when this agreement concludes, when the rumors evaporate and you no longer require me, I'm reconstructing my actual existence completely. When this agreement concludes, Jin-ho repeated thoughtfully. You're essentially planning our divorce before we're formally married, aren't you? He remained quiet for an extended moment, considering. Then no, I'm not, he said finally. Because despite your assumptions, I'm completely dedicated to everything I pursue. If I'm marrying, including for business justifications, then I'm remaining married. Divorce would generate far worse consequences for my reputation than these present rumors ever could. So I remain permanently trapped in an emotionless marriage to someone who probably doesn't experience attraction to women. Naledi laughed with bitter resignation. That's depressing. Emotion complicates absolutely everything, Jin-ho said flatly. What we possess is superior to that. Mutual advantage with completely transparent conditions and zero messy feelings destroying things constantly. Naledi should have felt relieved, should have welcomed his emotional distance. But a small, stubborn corner of her spirit whispered something different. What an empty existence that would be. The remaining dinner progressed through carefully formal exchanges. By completion, they'd established comprehensive protocols. Separate quarters, restricted physical contact limited to public appearances only, scheduled weekly dinners maintaining the appearance of actual intimacy. It was sensible, efficient, precisely aligned with Jin-ho's preferences completely. It was also devastatingly isolating. 3 weeks later, the wedding happened exactly as planned. A beautiful ceremony in a Bangkok temple, cameras flashing, his hand occasionally touching her back. She wore white silk, he wore tailored charcoal, and nobody could tell she felt absolutely nothing. The first night at the expanded penthouse, he walked her to her separate bedroom. Thank you for this, Naledi, for not running, for trying. And she almost asked him about the rumors, about what was actually true about his preferences. But his exhaustion stopped her. Instead, she simply said, You're welcome, Jin-ho, I'm trying too. 2 months passed. Dinner dates happened weekly. They smiled for photographers. She learned Korean, he learned about her dreams. One evening, she caught him watching her across the restaurant table like she was suddenly something he wanted instead of something he'd purchased. Her heart skipped. She told herself it meant nothing, but it felt like something was slowly breaking between them, something like walls gradually crumbling. 3 months into the marriage, Jin-ho came home early from work, his shirt torn and bleeding from a wound on his shoulder. He refused to explain where it came from. She cleaned his wound anyway, her hands shaking. He caught her wrist gently. You care, he said like he was surprised. Of course I care, she replied. We're married. That's not why, he said. And when he leaned down and kissed her for the first time, she didn't pull away. It was soft and questioning and terrified, like he was asking permission from someone he'd hurt. She gave it anyway. That night, the stalker broke in. Everything after felt like a dream sequence. His feral protection, his helicopter flight, his absolute refusal to let her leave his sight. And when the police arrived and took the stalker away, Jin-ho held her for hours in complete silence. The next morning, he sat across from her at breakfast with different eyes. I wasn't truthful with you about the rumors, he said quietly. I'm not asexual, I'm not aromantic, I've been terrified of genuine connection my entire life. And you showed up anyway. You stood your ground even when you had every reason to run. Naledi felt tears forming. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd expect something from me that I couldn't give. And then I started wanting to give you everything. I became terrified all over again. She reached across the table and took his hand. The rumors need to stop now, don't they? You don't need me anymore. No, Jin-ho said firmly. I need you completely differently now. I love you, Naledi. I'm in love with you. And I understand if you don't feel the same if this marriage was only business for you, but I had to tell you the truth. Naledi smiled through her tears. I love you too, you impossible man. but I'm still finishing my business degree and I'm still going to work at the African Union eventually. I wouldn't have it any other way, Jin-ho replied, and when he smiled, it was genuine for the first time. The scandal exploded a week later. Photographs emerged proving Jin-ho had paid her father's debts in exchange for marriage. The media was merciless. But this time, Jin-ho didn't hide or defend himself with cold logic. Instead, he held a press conference with Naledi by his side. Yes, we began our marriage as a business arrangement, he announced. And yes, that's exactly as romantic as it sounds. But what happened between us was real. What I feel for her now is real. And I'm not asking anyone's permission or understanding. She's my wife, I love her, and we're building a real life together. The business world gasped. His competitors questioned his sanity. But his sales actually increased as his human side became known. More importantly, Naledi's own business degree was completed 6 months later. She launched a nonprofit that helped women from developing countries avoid arranged marriages they didn't want, funded entirely by Jin-ho's company. 2 years after that first dinner where he criticized her dress, Naledi discovered she was pregnant. Jin-ho wept when she told him, actual tears running down his face. I never thought I could have this, he whispered. A real family, a real life, a real love. You have it, Naledi said, kissing his forehead. You absolutely have all of it. Their daughter was born on a rainy Seoul evening, and Jin-ho cut the cord with shaking hands. When he held their baby girl for the first time, he looked at Naledi and said, Thank you for seeing past everything I'd built, for seeing me. I always saw you, Naledi replied, even when you weren't ready to be seen. And that really is how a business transaction became the greatest love story of their lives. From arranged to adored, from contractual to completely real, from bought to eternally cherished. Because sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones that start with passion or destiny. They're the ones that start with two broken people learning that maybe they could fix each other. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to this channel for more stories about love that defies expectations and arrangements that become something beautiful. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comments, would you have walked away from Jin-ho or would you have given him a chance like Naledi did? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.